Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday show. I am your host tonight, the One-Ton Hammer. With me, of course, as always, are my co-hosts Terry
Hello.
and my other co-host Jen.
Hello.
How is everybody doing tonight? How you doing, Jen?
Oh, pretty good. How about yourself?
I cannot complain. Terry, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad.
We had a little bit of it seems like every show there's always something going on before the show that's not right. I had everything set up at 7:15 today. I put the show out at like 7:05, a little bit late for a reminder, so that the show starts at 9. Everything's all in place. 7:30 rolls around. Everything is configured. Everything's all set up. Everything's all perfect. No problems. And then as we're talking, I noticed that I'm talking to everybody in StreamYards and nobody's hearing me, but I'm not on mute. And I'm like, what's going on? So I started playing around, and this is getting close to showtime. And I start changing settings, and I went into StreamYards and I said, well, my microphone, I'll set that directly to the microphone. And then my microphone could be heard. But then none of the music would come through the StreamYards, and things weren't showing up right in Voice Meter Banana. Everything was coming out on OBS, because all the people who were listening to the show would have been able to hear things, but you wouldn't be able to hear me, and nobody would be able to hear the music. So at 5 minutes I started doing all these things to try to fix everything. Finally, everything got straightened out. What turned out to be a problem was I had to restore my operating system to about 2 weeks ago. And that's back before I had Voice Meter Banana on my machine. I had the regular voice meter that I was using. So when I started up StreamYards and OBS, they didn't know where music and voice were going to be coming from. So they just picked defaults. And all the defaults were, of course, wrong. So 5 minutes before the show, I'm scrambling to get my voice and the music to come out properly, but everything turned out okay this time. I guess I've had to do it so many times now that I know all the buttons to push. The show constantly fails. But as long as the people listening to the show can hear everything. And did you notice that the chat came up perfectly?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually getting good at this. I'm going to screw something up next week. I probably shouldn't say anything, but let's go ahead and say hi to everybody in chat. Mr. Adam is out there. Hi, Keyram. How you doing? And I'm sure as time goes by, we'll have more people stop by, getting used to being back on the regular channel and running at 9 o'clock again. So people will show up as we go. Got some great stuff for the show tonight as far as news. Terry brought up a story that he'll be talking about. I have it listed as hypothetically conditional, but it's actually conditional hypothetical. It's the other way around.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And I only have a side note because in the time it took me to share our stream, I got distracted by stupidity. Something by this stupid idiot named Xander Hall who thinks that like there's going to be a new movement of anti-SJWs.
Did you spell his name with an X? X-A-N-D-E-R? Yeah, I know.
Yeah. The guy who follows like his fascist apparently.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, there isn't. No.
I sent out a challenge to Posh. Nothing ever happened about that a couple days ago on Twitter, but he didn't respond to me because he's a coward.
Well, it's just one of those things where like he put everyone in that photo who is like old school, like Sargon and Paul Joseph Watson, who are kind of in a different league, like because Paul was already part of a show, like he was already part of InfoWars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was employed by them, his own reporter. Like Sargon isn't a reporter. He's not actually a journalist.
No.
He's his own guy. That's what makes him interesting.
He's social commentary.
Yes.
Yeah. Like us.
And they just lumped everyone into that picture. Even Shu on head. I'm like, Shu hasn't been. I don't think she was ever really anti-SJW. She was just anti-stupid feminist videos.
Right. Which a lot of SJWs were. So there was an overlap.
Yeah, like there's.
Did you see Shu trolling everyone by pretending the FBI labeled her a terrorist?
Yeah.
Pretty ingenious how she went about doing it, too. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, she's always had a sense of humor. It's one of the things that most of us appreciate about her. Is like most of us don't agree with her opinions, but she still has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
You can still tell her a joke. She'll still, for the most part.
she has a sense of humor. I don't really equate with it. You can't just tell her a joke and have her laugh. She's a little off. There's something a little off about her. It's a little quirky. And I hear a lot of things that happen in the background with her from her boyfriend and all that kind of stuff, and it kind of makes you think, what the hell is wrong with her?
I'm never going to accuse Armored Skeptic of things he didn't do, but I always kind of felt like he was he's a very controlling kind of a guy, or at least that's how he came.
See how you would say that. I would think I would call him a stabilizing factor in her life. Would be a better way to put it, because she
does seem to have gone off the rails since they broke up.
Yes, yeah.
Well, she followed Vosh. Like, she was just like, ooh, I'm going to follow hardcore socialism. And I don't know if it's because she maybe sees a little bit of Vosh, or like a little bit of Skeptic in Vosh. You know, personality-wise, they might speak differently, but I don't know.
I don't see what people like about the guy. I just don't see it. Is it because he has a decent vocabulary, or I don't know. Not attractive. He's photographed from the side. He's kind of hunched over and fat, bearded. He just like what?
I think what happened was people told him he was attractive because, like, he'd be in the background of Shoes videos, and people would be like, "Oh, who's that guy?"
Really?
And so it kind of went to his head a bit. Because after that, that's when he did like the face reveal of Armored Skeptic.
Yeah. Which is a shame, because that's when he went downhill in my mind.
I think Armored Skeptic was a decent looking guy, but Vaush looks to me like some of the things, along with some of the things he said, he reminds me of Cenk Uygur.
Like, when it comes to Armored Skeptic, I just always thought he was funnier when he was doing his little avatar guys. Like, I don't doubt that
he was never funny. Like, Armored Skeptic was never funny. I actually had to like endure his like attempts at comedy to get to the actual video, and it's like,
I don't know.
There are some people who've done face reveals where they've been able to remain successful, but they're not the same once they do. Because if you go back and look at Lauren Chen, back when she was Romy Millennial, when she didn't do a face reveal, her videos were really interesting. Now she's a talking head on like a podcast kind of format now, and her videos aren't what they used to be because of it. I mean, she's pretty to look at, and she's not talking stupid stuff, but the video itself is not visually engaging anymore like the old one used to be. You know, there's no charts, there's no moving graphics, there's nothing to grab your eyes. It's her face. Pretty enough, but the point being is it just doesn't. They're different things. Doing a video with a report, then doing a video as a talking head, and then streaming. They're three different things, and one doesn't always equate to the other.
Well, she actually used to alternate because some people liked the graphs and some people liked her face. So it's like, to try and accommodate everyone, she'd like do one old school video and then one with her face, and then eventually she just dropped the.
She can do an insert, you know, get both of both like Twitch would do.
Yeah,
you know, she could do that.
I remember there was a time when, like, she actually said, "Look, half of you like it when I show my face, the other half prefer the old style. So I'm just gonna like try and do a bit of both." And then the old style just went by the wayside because I think it's a lot easier if she just shows her face, rather than animating everything.
And that's lazy.
Yeah.
So. And it's not like she can't employ people to help her with that kind of stuff, like Jeremy does. And I don't think he had, you know, I know he's, I don't know that his channel's necessarily bigger. Like, she's set up a little bit different, you know, but she could hire at least one or two people to help her with editing if that's what she needed, you know, like if it's
Liam
just a time thing.
Liam
does I was going to say, isn't a fiance / husband / whatever he is.
She's her husband. He's her husband.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not like she doesn't have the help to do it, you know, because I would imagine that is quite a lot of work. Like I can understand putting that to the wayside if you're making more bank doing it this way. But yeah, it is lazy. I think that's been a lot of the common complaints that I've heard from people, like, you know, how you do your videos. Like, it's noticeable when it's lazy.
Yeah.
I'm taking a quick check on Social Blade to see the difference between Jeremy and Lauren Shen. He's at 1.170 million, and
Crazy.
Lauren Shen is 505K. So Jeremy's way bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite fun.
Okay. Yeah. But I think he also caters a little bit more common ground than she does. Like she lost, I think, a little bit from people because of her stance on Gab with the anti-porn thing.
But not only that, like she went over to the Blaze, so her YouTube channel necessarily suffered because she was splitting her attention.
Yeah, she went downhill when she went to the Blaze. That's why she left the Blaze. It was that whole point, is that she was losing people on her YouTube channel. So I don't know. Jeremy does what, 5 to 7 videos a day.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
She does one every 2 or 3 days, kind of deal. Plus, she does that horrible podcast that she has.
Yeah, that's not to forget that Jeremy also has other channels. Like, he's got, I think, 2 other channels that he does too.
Yeah, he does.
And
he's got Midwestly and Unsleeved Media. I don't know how active those two are because I'm not.
Midwestly is more. I don't know the third one as much because it doesn't crop up. Like, YouTube doesn't share it at all.
Well, Unsleeved Media was his Magic the Gathering one.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, since he got kind of exiled from that community, I don't know if he still keeps up to.
Kind of exiled. They banned him.
Kind of exiled.
Not kind of exiled. He's gone. It's pretty funny. But yeah, I think I commented on this last time we were together, is that it seems to me that people can't make the transition from one format to another very well. I think the only person who's ever really made the transition has been Monkey. He's been successful at moving from doing videos all the time to doing podcasting all the time, a non-visual podcast all the time.
But I will say, if he stuck with the videos, his channel numbers would be much higher than they are.
They are, but he's still good at podcasting anyway. He's got a good voice, and he's an intelligent person, so that's always going to be good for him. And he's entertaining. That's what it comes right down to. But you look at Lauren in this podcast she has with, what's her name? Oaks? Somebody Oaks? Virginia? What's her name?
No idea.
I can't remember the girl that she's with, but that podcast, it's not good. It's not good. Well, and the same thing
she's not as naturally funny either. I know that's not necessarily that important, but it kind of is on YouTube. It kind of is on YouTube.
You have to entertain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whether it's being quirky and cute, or being laugh, funny, or whatever it is, you have to find something that is entertaining about what you're doing. It's the same thing with Sydney Watson. Her videos, outstanding videos. Pretty girl. This You Are Here podcast she does with Elijah Schaefer.
Boring.
It's terrible.
I only know one thing that happened on You Are Here, and that's the thing everyone knows happened on You Are Here.
Well, I'm also not a fan of Elijah Schaefer either, so that may be the other reason. But then you look at people who are doing podcasts, and you can't imagine them ever doing a video. It just is not in their wheel. Look at Ab and Preach. Can you imagine them actually doing an edited video? No.
I wouldn't want to.
All right. But I mean, I guess you kind of find the lane that works best for you. And some people try to transition that lane, and no good.
It was the same thing with, I don't know if you're aware of JPCs.
Who?
JPCs. He's kind of done a lot of stuff against the corona restrictions. But he tried, normally he presents himself as if he's on the left, but very sarcastically, sort of. The whole point is, you can tell he's being sarcastic and highlighting how stupid it all is. But he tried to do a completely serious video, and I didn't like it. It was no, go back to what you're good at.
Yeah.
Don't try and be serious. That's not what you're here for.
That's something I don't like about this format. I don't have a problem broadcasting live. I've been told many times that I have the gift of gab and I could just run the show by myself if I had to, and that wouldn't be a problem. But I don't really consider myself that entertaining. I can talk, but I think I do better when I'm talking with somebody. And you two are awesome, so I like having both of you on the show with me. But I would never do a video. I mean, I tried doing videos before, and I sucked at it. And I realized it pretty quick, and I stopped doing them. So it's just, you got to find the lane that you work best in and go with that. So
yeah, I can't do like videos. I don't know how to, but like I don't have anything that I would want to say enough that I would go out and make a video about it. Whereas on a stream, I'm fine to just chat with people because it's fun, it's interesting.
The only thing I don't like about the format is that I'm required to maintain a certain level of anonymity. I like to be able to do a face cam because I think I'm more entertaining when you can see what I'm saying, as opposed to just a ball with a volume bubble around it.
I'm without a shadow of a doubt in the belief that if I had my camera on, I would definitely get more views.
Well, I mean, that's obvious. That's obvious. You put a woman with a camera and you're automatically going to get views. So
it's my only issue is if I started doing face cams, I would have to start caring a lot more about my appearance. Like I'd have to, I'd have to get haircuts a lot more often. I'd have to like be a lot more presentable. Whereas like as it is, like I've been just hacking away at my own hair because like while the restrictions were in place, I couldn't go to the hairdresser, and then I found out like if I can just cut my own hair, what am I paying them money for when like no one's going to see my hair except delivery people anyway?
You can use a filter. They have filters that can make you look like a cat or
I don't want to do something
like a different
silly.
person, that kind of stuff. They have.
No,
I was playing with one the other day, and it made me look like an anime character. I thought that looks pretty cool. I like that, and they can make you look like a Disney princess and all kinds of stuff.
No, I think if I was going to do that, I'd just show my face. But I don't know. I'd have to put a lot more effort into looking presentable than I would really want to. So like, screw it. I'll just be a foot.
The problem with those filters is if you turn your head left or right or back away from the camera, or do anything unusual, it loses the effect and everyone can see your face.
Yeah.
So it's not a guarantee.
I've shown my face before. It's not often, but I think there's been like 2 or 3 times people have asked. Enough people have asked. Like, yeah, sure, why not?
Doesn't Johnny Hellcat have a talking avatar? Or does he just?
Yeah. He's got that cat, that face
Hellcat.
rig, the cat.
Yeah. That's not a filter. That's a different program, right?
Yeah, that's face rig.
Face rig.
Yes.
So that's not like a filter. Like in other words, if he turns his head, it's not going to drop.
No. He even deliberately turns his head to stare at Camel because he knows it creeps him out.
Okay, I never caught that. Sounds funny though.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be good to see my expressions because they underscore what I'm saying, to a good degree. So.
Yeah, I said that before about my gaming streams that they would be a lot more amusing. Back when I was streaming 7 Days to Die with Moonshock. Yeah, when I'm following him with Dynamite, I guarantee you it's way more amusing to see the look on my face while I'm doing that than not seeing it. Because I do get the shit eater's grin on my face. I will sit there and be like, yeah, I'm following you with Dynamite, man. Wait until he turns around.
See, when I'm broadcasting, I'm broadcasting like I am on TV. I'm looking at my screen as if it's a monitor, not my monitor that I'm looking at to see the show, but as if it was a monitor from a TV camera. So I'm
okay.
I catch myself doing things like I'll make a sarcastic remark and I'll stare at the screen, looking straight at the screen without wavering. That kind of looked like, you've seen it for like MXR plays whenever he says something that is like a little off kilter or look at the screen like he's stunned that he said that live kind of deal. You know, so I think I'd be a lot more entertaining if I was able to use my face, but I'm just still paranoid enough that I'm not comfortable with it yet. We'll see. Maybe when I get a little older, get more like who's an old person? Skep Tock.
Could have an old man.
Or
You know
Bloodwing.
what? You could do like a scene. Well, no, well, you know what? I've seen Bloodwing. He calls himself an old guy, but you know what? His hair is still like full, thick black
he's
hair.
not that old. He's not young, but he's younger than Skeptok, I believe, by quite a margin.
I also think that
What's that
working help. I that's me. I'm stirring my coffee.
Oh, I'm thinking that sounds like a you know, my mind immediately tries to determine what that sound is, so it starts building these whole things in my mind. That's a dog pawing at a milk jug.
To be honest,
where did that come from?
My mic doesn't normally pick up everything. Like, it's really good at filtering my voice, but like it's funny when you say that. I'm like, I think that was me stirring my cup. Yep.
Well, I mean, everyone knows, you know, from broadcasting before I was on break that I have a ice tea canister that I use. That when I stir it, it sounds like a cowbell, and it was actually a joke on the stream. I still have it here. It's,
oh, that's awesome! Yeah.
And we used to joke about it. Here's a hammer with his cowbell, because you don't know what it is, huh?
You've got to have more cowbell.
More cowbell. When you don't know what it is, you're like, what is that sound? You know, it doesn't immediately sound like somebody stirring something metal. It sounds like some kind of bell or something. So that's been a long outstanding joke with cowbell. But I kind of backed off in the tea, and I kind of concentrated on Capri Sun instead, because they're the only two drinks that you can drink that have sugar in them. Everything else is like high fructose corn syrup and sorbitol and mannitol, all this crazy crap that I can't drink. So I'm limited down just two things if I want something cold. And I kind of backed away from the tea a little bit because there's an awful lot of caffeine in tea. People don't realize it's like having coffee. There's almost an equal amount of caffeine in tea that there is in coffee. And
well, yes and no. You use so much less tea in a cup of tea than you use coffee in a cup of coffee. So even though like a kilo of tea has about the same caffeine as a kilo of coffee, a mug of tea or a mug of coffee, the tea has a lot less.
Yeah.
It still has a decent amount, but nowhere near as much as coffee by the cup.
Well, this cowbell thing that I have, this cup, it's double, triple insulated, so it can, you can put ice in it, and 5 hours later there's still ice in it, kind of deal. And it's 32 ounces, and I used to have 2 or 3 a day. That's too much caffeine, so that's kind of why I moved over to. It's not like I'm endorsing the product or anything like that. Some people hate it, some people like it, but I went over to Capri Sun instead, and it's been a change in how I behave as far as the caffeine. I know it's definitely made a difference. I am much more tired now.
Yeah, but also all the like Coke and Pepsi and stuff in Australia uses sugar, but none of it uses the corn syrup.
You're lucky. Oh, speaking of Johnny Hellcat, Johnny Hellcat is in chat, and so is Cynic.
Yes.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
And Cannibalistic Wizard has joined us. Welcome, everybody. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Terry.
No, it's all sugar. There's like they don't have the high fructose corn syrup in our soft drinks.
Mm-hmm. How about Canada? Same thing. Do you guys have sugar, or do you have the dreaded high fructose?
If you're getting sugar sodas, you're paying for it. We usually get the same as you guys because we get the same. It's the same like company system up here for the most part.
The same distributor, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, at best I could see certain things being a little bit smaller, but like if you're talking like standard Coke, Pepsi, those guys are the same.
Okay. And can you get the sugared version as well? Is it available?
You can actually buy their little glass jars, and it's sugar cane. We actually have one for maple syrup that I really want to try.
Of course,
it's
Canadian.
Well, I want to try it anyway because I'm like, it's a different sugar type. So I'm like, maybe it'll taste different.
Yeah.
But they're expensive. So I'm just like, I might wait until you go on sale. This is
Yeah.
a kind of a hippie
Or
store.
buy one and try it kind of deal as opposed to buying a 6-pack or something like that.
Yeah. Well, you have to buy them in a pack of 4. And I wouldn't be opposed to it. It's just their glass. So I'm kind of a little bit worried about carrying something like that home just because like clinking and then boom.
I recently made a mistake along those lines. Because I like Capri Sun, there is a flavor that I like that my store does not carry. It is Tropical Punch. In my opinion, the best taste of all of the Capri Sun. It's like 20 different flavors. And they have some good ones and bad ones. Kiwi is awful. Sorry. But the Tropical Punch is a favorite of mine, and my store stopped carrying it ever since the pandemic. So I went on Amazon and tracked it down and found it. So I ordered it online. I didn't notice, but it's Tropical Punch organic. And I thought, organic? Oh, well, nothing, it's organic, right? Great. Well, organic in this sense means sugar-free. So I got 4 boxes, 10 pouches per box of this stuff, and it tastes awful. It's just awful. So I'm going to talk to one of the neighbors and say, hey, do you want this? Because it's sugar-free and I can't handle it. So
can you just add sugar to it? Can you just like...
They're in pouches. I guess I could cut a pouch open and put it in a glass, put sugar in and ice. But then I'm, that's a lot of...
At that point, you might as well just open up the whole box and put them in a...
put it in a jug and, just stir in a whole...
Yeah, and just make it into like a Kool-Aid.
I'd rather give it away to somebody who is used to non-sugared stuff.
Fair
and I'm
enough.
sure even if I put sugar in it, it's not going to taste the same as the stuff that comes with sugar in it.
Oh, God, no.
So,
not even close.
So
I was more trying to salvage what you've purchased, not trying to
yeah. No,
the equivalent.
Mine, I don't have anybody who's like close to me, neighbors, but I have to use the term in a loose way because there's nobody within a mile of me. But I do kind of give the neighbors that I do have at distance, we kind of share things a little bit. So we have a little club of people, we all have our DVDs, and if somebody has a movie that they want to see, but they don't have it, instead of buying it, they find out from our little DVD club if anybody else has it, and they meet up every couple of weeks and exchange DVDs and that kind of stuff. And we do the same thing with food. If there's a food that I get that I don't like, I'll just, here, I got this, you guys can have it, and they just pick at it kind of deal. I'll just either give it to somebody I know. Like there's a guy who stops by my house from time to time to take stuff to the post office for me. Because I don't want to be mailed from my house, so I have it mailed to his house to keep my location private. Everything goes from his house. They can find him; they'll never find me. We're not even near each other. But he passes by me on the way to work, and we're good friends. So yeah, I'll just I know his wife is into sugar-free Coke and sugar-free Pepsi and that kind of stuff. She'll probably like these. So next time he stops by, I'll say, hey, take one of these boxes. Tell me if your wife likes it. If she does, here's I have 3 more boxes, kind of deal, and do it that way. But but yeah, I'm gonna have to go back to the store-bought Fruit Punch and Pacific Cooler, are the 2 that my local grocery dealer has in stock, and they're normal. So back to the sugar. That's why I'm a little quiet tonight, or a little subdued tonight. I don't have any sugar running through my veins at the moment. So
Yeah.
I had a piece of pie to try to ramp me up a little bit, but there's not enough sugar in it to wake me up. So
well, that's because you need a butter tart pie or a pecan pie, because that's like pure sugar.
When my wife makes a pie, it's glorious, because I mean it's like 4 inches tall, and she uses like 15 apples to make her pie, and and she uses cinnamon, and it's a nice lined glazing on the top, and it's just packed with sugar and absolutely nice, big, tall. It's just it's awesome. But she didn't want to make one, and I had a hankering for an apple pie, so I got one from the grocery store. It's like an inch tall, It's
Mm.
as terrible by comparison. I mean, it tastes good. It's still apple pie. Apple pie is hard to taste bad,
Yeah.
but it's just such a disappointment. She looks at me and she looked at the apple pie and she just laughed at me. I was like, "Fuck you."
Fuck you and your delicious pastries that you make well.
It's just the look on her face, like, see, I'm so much better, and yeah, you're right. You're right.
I do think it's interesting that a lot of people in America, when they hear pie, they think of like a fruit pie, like a dessert.
Yeah.
I just go straight to a meat pie. Is like
Mhm.
if you
Right.
say, "Do you want a pie?" I assume you're talking about beef and
Yeah.
gravy and a.
Yeah. I mean,
That's basically it. Yeah,
we
I've
do
been more
have that.
Americanized than you. We've been so much more Americanized than you guys in Canada for that reason,
Well,
because I
you're a
know
lot
what you
closer.
would do.
Well, Europe's
Because the
even
thing is,
worse.
well, the
Europe,
thing
they don't
is,
even, they're nothing but meat when they're. I mean, they're shepherd's pie.
yeah,
They're entirely that way. So yeah,
yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I'm reminding you of Quebec because we do have tourtières, which is a meat pie. It's a
oh,
mixture of ground beef and pork, or sometimes you can get them where they're all pork. And
tortilleries,
yeah,
Terry.
tortilla.
Hmm.
Tortilleries.
I was never really that big a fan of it, just because a lot of people who make them really dry. Like, you're supposed to add sausage to it or something like a sausage to it, so it's a little bit more moist. And a lot of people don't know how to make it properly.
I'm not sticking my sausage into a pie.
You can make a movie out of it. Um,
Yeah, well, that's already been done.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, I just have a hankering for apple pies. Maybe it's the American blood or something like that. It's, it's
Good
America's
apple
apple
pie, though,
pie.
is nice.
Yeah.
I do like apple pie. It is
Mhm.
It is
like
not my favorite. I'm a, uh, coconut cream is my favorite pie.
like
I'm a big fan of coconut cream. I can't have like coconut milk or anything coconut because it doesn't agree with me anymore. But I can still have coconut cream pie, and I really prefer that over apple.
yeah, it's like the only like dessert pie that is like common down here is apple pie.
Yeah,
Like I've never seen a coconut cream pie in my life.
yeah.
Wow.
I could see that because orchard fruits usually go around, like, just because, yeah, there's nowhere that you don't really have orchards of some
Hmm.
sort.
Yeah.
And apples are really easy to grow. Like, they're very really happy trees. They like wherever. But
But like I saw a cherry pie on the menu of like one of the restaurants on DoorDash. It's like, oh wow, this is like I've got to try that. And then like that's fine. It's nothing special, but it's like this is like a fruit pie that's not apple pie. I've got to give it a go.
Yeah.
see, it's about how they went about it. Like, there's different ways to go about cherry pie. There's the guy who actually takes cherries and then pits them and makes a cherry pie. And then there's most people who use a canned. And the problem
Yeah.
with the canned stuff is it ends up being like mushy maraschino cherries. At least
Right.
that's how I always tasted them. But if you get the guy who's actually willing to put it up the work to pit them and just make a real cherry pie, good stuff.
I think what makes
I
my girlfriend's so good with her apple pie because and it's not just the volume, but it's a unique taste. It's definitely apple pie. There's no question about it. But she uses a select different type of apples in the pie. She doesn't just use one. She
yeah,
uses
yeah.
a bunch of them. When you bake them, their tastes kind of melt together into an apple taste that you've never had before. Because she uses Granny May, she uses Macintosh. I'm not sure if she uses Fuji or Gala, and I'm not sure what the
Okay, so
proportions are.
yeah,
She
so
won't
she's
tell me.
throwing in she's throwing in a couple apples that offer her the pectin. She's throwing in the Macintosh because Macintosh has a butter texture.
Hmm.
Like, when it
It's soft.
cooks, it makes most apple sauces are usually made with Macintosh because they have the butter texture. But if she's throwing in the Gala, she's throwing in the sweet apple. Galas are kind of like a mixture between a red apple and a Granny Smith.
Is
Uh,
is it pronounced Gala? Am I mispronouncing it? Because
Gala.
I've always thought Gala. If you're looking at proper English, two vowels separated by a consonant makes the first vowel long. Gala.
I always call them gala.
Mhm.
Really? Because that would be
Mhm.
Galla.
See, I'd call that gala. Galla would be gala to me.
Well, like I said, I could be pronouncing it wrong. I've always called it gala. No one's ever corrected me before. But if you're right, then I've
Yeah.
been mispronouncing it for a long time.
Oh, I think it's probably regional. I think different places have different accents and pronunciations.
Yeah, maybe that might be it.
It's like my city name. Because I live in Canada, my city name is one of those ones where a lot of people will stumble upon it because it's called Calgary. And it's one of those things where you kind of can tell when people are from here, because when you say the Gary, it's more like Garee when you pronounce it. But everyone else, yeah.
I've always said Calgary.
Yeah, it's the emphasis of the wrong syllable kind of deal. Everyone else calls it Calgary, putting the emphasis on Cal, where you're putting it on Gary, Calgary.
It's one of those things you wouldn't really notice it until somebody points it out, and you're like, "Oh, I was doing that, wasn't I? Oh shit, okay." It's like saying "a" all the time.
Yeah. But yeah, she'll have me buy a bunch of different apples, and then she won't tell me which one she's going to use, and then she'll put the thing together herself. And it's not like it's the same thing every time, because sometimes she'll nix one apple for another brand. She has a tendency to nix the Fuji's. If she'll, depending on what she has me buy, she'll nix Fuji's with Pink Lady or something like that. She'll come up with a different thing, and I really can't tell the difference too much in the pie, but it seems like Fuji, Gala, whatever, and Pink Lady are kind of interchangeable, because Granny May has a very distinct bitter taste and it's hard, and Macintosh has a very distinctive taste. It's butter soft and smooth. And then she uses the other ones, I guess it's just general filler. But one thing that she never does, she never uses Red Delicious.
Nope, it's not a good it's not a good baking apple.
If we have Red Delicious in the house, it's for eating apple only. She doesn't use it in any cooking at all.
But the Granny Smith is for the pectin. Granny Smith is probably North America's pectin apple. Like, we use it for
What
if
is
you're
pectin?
making pectin is the thing that makes a jam without actually adding like a gelatin to it.
Okay.
It makes it a firmer thing. So the more pectin that's in the fruit, the more firm it's going to be. So like I'm gonna use an example of a pastilla. Pastilla is Russian, and they're actually making a marshmallow with apples. So what they take is so the thing about Russia, they actually are kind of number one for apples. Like, if you think potatoes from France, because they actually were the first producers of like different types of of potatoes, Russia is a place to go to for apples. So a pastilla was something that they made where they would mix it with egg whites until it became like a meringue, until it became a meringue, and then they would layer it and make it basically a marshmallow cake out of it. And you can't do that without pectin. Like, if your apples don't have pectin, like if you were to use different orchard fruits, like different countries will throw in like peach to add a little bit of peach flavor to it. They end up having to add extra packages of pectin to it. Granny Smiths, they're tart and they're really, really thick because of the pectin. And it's like the more pectin in the apple, the more bitter it's going to taste. But those are like the best apples for doing anything with them, because they're versatile in the sense that they can set something. Like they can actually make a meringue for you.
Wow, you know an awful lot about apples.
I like apples a lot because of that. It's one of those things where when you realize that you live in a cold country, you understand why people love certain types of food. So like apples is like potatoes, it keeps for a long time, especially if you like, we have refrigeration nowadays, so it's not an issue. But like, I look at my country and we're run by retards. So yeah, I do think things like, if I ever ran out of electricity, what would I do? Yeah, I would use a cold cellar. For things like apples and potatoes, at least, but apples are really good for preserving. Like, they make a lot of jams. They're really good for, like I said, pectin. lots of dry cakes. Like a lot of historically speaking, a lot of people didn't really eat in the spring.
Mhm.
Like your food kind of had to last until August, really. Because most things don't really grow in until maybe midsummer. Like fruits and vegetables don't. You have to go out into the wild to find stuff that grows in at that time, even in the spring. So like you're kind of limited on how much food you have. So apples and potatoes, when they got them, they were like, holy grail, you last the extra 2 months that we need.
Mhm.
Same with you think Europe is like a grains for reasons.
There was I guess it was like the 10th episode ever
Mhm.
of the Minions where it was just me and Zelthor. You guys remember
Oh yeah.
Zelthor?
Yeah, I talked to Zelthor.
He's awesome. And it was just the two of us, and we spent like the entire stream talking about apples. It is one of my favorite foods. We should probably get to the news though, because we're 3/4 into the show.
No, right?
How you feeling, Jen? You gonna be okay?
I'm actually okay. I did take that nap, so I have at least a little bit of a second wind. And
Okay.
tomorrow is my last shift for this week. And then I got Friday
Okay.
off, so I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like
All right. So the first story that I was talking, I actually didn't get to what the third story. The third story, I was just going to discuss stuff about what's going on with the Marvel franchise. There's some news there, but the first story is actually Terry's story. He came to me with about it, and it has to do with IQ and how people are able to. Well, Terry, why don't you run this?
So basically, V was posting on Twitter this thing that he found on Reddit, where they
V?
were saying people with an IQ below 90 can't understand the concept of like hypothetical questions. So if you ask them, how would you have felt yesterday if you missed breakfast and lunch? They'll be
Hungry.
like, but I didn't. I had breakfast, and like they just cannot conceptualize like, but that's not how it was. What are you talking about? They get very confused.
Mhm.
And I just thought it was interesting because he did a video on it and he's saying it really opened his eyes on a lot of political discussion because he just thought people were trolling and like deliberately not understanding his questions. But now he's considering, well, maybe they just legitimately do not understand these types of question.
They can't
Like
put
if you say,
themselves into a hypothetical situation. Is that what it is?
yeah, basically, yeah,
Wow.
and it works like in the future as well. Like if you say, what if this happens tomorrow? They'll be like, but it hasn't. What are you talking about? Like they just cannot conceptualize hypothetical situations, and I actually looked it up. So an IQ of 90 is the bottom 25% of the population. So about a quarter of the people in the
Wow.
world have this thing.
Does this have any relationship to do with having a voice in your head? Because some
I
people have a
don't
voice
know.
in their head and some people don't.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. I haven't seen that link made anywhere because I've only seen V's video on the subject and he didn't cover that.
Well, I wonder if it works for other things too. Like I've noticed I don't want to get us in trouble, but in certain conversations where you're trying to point out that people are really concerned about one group of people, but they don't seem to have a visual concern for anybody else.
Yeah,
And they just can't understand why you would talk about that. Like what?
well, exactly. It's like the example that we keep giving with free speech, where we say, "How would you like it if you were the ones being censored?" They're like, "But we're not. What are you talking about?"
Mhm.
Like they cannot put themselves in the situation where, well, what if this happened to you? It's not happening to me. You're talking nonsense. And so that's why they can't see the danger of advocating these positions because they can't conceive of the same thing happening to them. It's just that their brain doesn't work that way.
Mhm.
I used to date a girl who could not sing music in her mind.
Okay.
If she was going to sing a song, she had to sing it out loud, or she couldn't enjoy it, I guess is the way I would say it. Like she couldn't, if she wanted to hear a song, she had to sing it herself or play it, but she
Okay.
couldn't just
Yeah.
in her mind. Like she had to start the song from the beginning. She couldn't pick it up like halfway through. Like I can sit here and I can think of a song and I can listen to that song in my head,
Of course. Yeah.
lyrics and everything. She could not do that.
Yeah.
She didn't have a mind's eye, I guess, as a lot of people use it. Carry me
But
home, na 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 na. I could pick that song up right away. Blink 182. I could right in
Yeah.
the middle of the song, and while I'm sitting here talking to you, I can be listening to it in my head.
Mhm.
But
Perfectly
that's
fine.
something Jen and I were talking about with the ability to visualize, because I don't really do mental images, and like people like Jen and Satsu, I don't like you say something, they can't help but visualize it. That
Mhm.
I can't. It's like
Mhm.
imagine, like a red triangle. Well, I can conceive of the concept, but I don't actually see a triangle. I just have the thought, a red triangle. It's like, okay, what do you want me to do with the thought? But I don't see anything. I don't actually visualize a red triangle. I just can't.
Well,
Doesn't-
it's
doesn't
kind of it's actually kind of funny. Like if you showed me the image of something that was like dramatic or traumatic or something offensive or something, I am less offended than when you were like if you were to describe the image to me. Like if you had to put the effort to describe it to me, the imagery in my head will be there, but it'll make me more angry. Like
Okay.
an example is like the other day I stumbled upon this story because I watched this guy who it's a little bit morbid, but he does tours of graveyards so that he can talk about famous people or he talks about incidents or he
Mhm.
just does that.
Yeah.
And so he got to this story about the Bath massacre guy. And I'd never heard the story about this guy before. Like there's a lot of bad things that happened in the past and I'm happy that I don't know about them all. But this guy just described it to me. And if he, cuz he did show visuals of it, the visuals didn't bother me. It was him talking about the story that got to me. So like the
Okay.
guy I'm going to explain this story to you cuz like just verbalizing it to you will make you mad. It will make you mad. So this guy was probably one of those first school shooters, even though he didn't use any guns.
Okay.
And what happened is he was an adult and he had problems with the school administration and he had problems with the town and he was trying to change things within the school administration for the poor. Like he was trying to get more funding for the poor. And he just decided that because he wasn't getting his way or the people who were working with him weren't willing to let him do whatever the hell he wanted, he just decided that he was going to destroy the whole town. Like he was going to get revenge on the whole town. So he started off by blowing up his house because the guy was a TNT expert. Apparently back in the day, it was easier and cheaper to clear land by just using TNT rather than killing your car or your horse. And so he starts off by blowing his house up. And so the town is rushing to his house to see if he's okay. There's first responders checking him out because A, he's an explosive expert, and B, that's kind of a bad thing. And so while everybody is racing towards his house, he blows up the elementary school.
It's a lovely thing to do.
And then while everybody is going to the elementary school to respond to the elementary school, he drives to the school with his car packed with explosives. And then that's how he killed himself.
Jesus.
And so the entire time I'm listening to this story, I'm like, I didn't know that ending. Like I hadn't gotten to that part of the story, but I was like, I hope to hell that they hung him or electrocuted him or did something really painful to end his life. And then I realized that he killed himself. And I'm sitting there like, can we resurrect him just so we can kill him again? Like, if I'd visually seen that, like the images that they still had, because they did have a couple of visions, like visual pictures of the things that had happened. That part doesn't bother me because it's an old photo. Like my brain is intelligent enough to make the distance of being like, yes, this was a bad thing, but it happened a really long time ago. Everybody who remembers this is already dead, so there's no point in continually grieving for these people. But the guy telling the story, like, I'm just like, oh, I can't not be mad. not possible. Yeah, I get that way with certain stories. Like sometimes someone will verbally say the story. I will be watching the visuals. Like I said, I can my brain is intelligent enough to make the connection. This doesn't affect me.
No, that's like the sign of a good storyteller, though. If they can make you feel, they're doing a good job telling the story, because that's ultimately the purpose of telling the story. Is to make the listener feel something. Whether that's
basically the hypothesis of every modern day movie. They use music and camera angles and good writing to tell a story that evokes some kind of emotional response, or else it's not a good movie. But I just wonder how many people have that issue where they can't understand a hypothetical, and is it just that no one ever explained to them what a hypothetical is, that they don't understand, or are they just not capable because of a low IQ? And do these people have a mind's eye or not? What kind of correlation that would have? That would be all kinds of interesting stuff to delve into.
Well, I as I said, it's the bottom 25% because of the way IQ is structured. Like
curve.
It by definition, an IQ of 90 is the bottom 25%. Like that's how it's defined. People are categorized according to those metrics. So 100 is always the average, and then sort of like the further you get from the center, the fewer people are there. So massive cluster around, like 95 to 105 is like most people. And then very rare exceptions go beyond that.
Yeah, that's the whole bell curve thing. Have you ever had your IQ checked to see where you fell on that?
So for mine, I went with a couple of online ones, so I don't know their accuracy, but I always ended up at like 122.
That's insanely smart. That is like crazy smart.
It has to do with my ability to recognize patterns. Like I'm very, very good with patterns, and my memory for it is good. In all honesty, the only reason I don't necessarily trust those IQ tests is because they don't take into account they're all multiple choice to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And my brain actually learns from previous questions. So if I catch on to the pattern within the first 20 questions, I already passed the other 20 questions.
Well, I mean, it's a totally unreliable IQ test, but a funny IQ test I found was they ask you a bunch of questions, and like the actual answers to the questions don't matter. The real IQ test is how long it takes you to realize that the same questions keep coming up.
Yeah.
And like the sooner you like close out of the quiz because this is nonsense.
Yeah.
The longer it takes you, the lower your IQ.
Yeah. I think those are there's certain ones like that. But the other one I was describing, like it was a real IQ test because they were doing like the shapes and things too. But that's kind of what I mean. Like if you're doing like squares to triangles to lines and that kind of stuff, my brain automatically starts to catch on to what you're doing within the first like couple of questions. Like it takes me maybe the longest within the first one because that's where I'm kind of figuring out, okay, this is what you're trying to do with me. If they had to make me spell out questions, like answers for questions, it's an entirely different thing because the school system up here holds you back if you have learning disabilities. So dyslexia to the extreme does not take into account like IQ. Like I think they leave that out. I don't know if they do it on purpose.
I should take an IQ. I've never taken an IQ test. I think I would do well. I mean, I did well in school and college. And I think I have a pretty good vocabulary and a fair amount of life experience. I think I would do well in an IQ test, but I've never taken one.
The other problem. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I've done like online IQ tests, but I don't trust the results.
I'd like to do an official one. Yeah.
Yeah. But based on those, I've got like some absurdly high IQ, which I really, really do not believe. I think if I had to give an honest guess, I'd be maybe 110. That's probably where I'm kind of sitting.
The other thing too is I'm well aware of my gaps in my education. Like I'm grateful for the fact that I've still self-educated myself at the very least. You know, whether it was watching documentaries or reading stuff, I've never stopped reading things. The problem is I do retain information that makes no sense to me whatsoever. Like if I was in a, say, a doctor's office or a dental office and I was reading their shit, you know, like their magazines, I'm still going to remember what I read. It just doesn't mean anything to me. And that's the thing with my intelligence is like I will know things that just are meaningless to me. Which is why I kind of focus on things that I actually really like. Like I really enjoy history. Like if I could have just gone to school to do history, I would have done that. But the thing is my dad really set home to me that curators, they don't need a lot of those. So
No.
and you don't make a lot of money doing it. So he's like, well, you could pick McDonald's or you could go to school, spend a shit ton of money and make the same amount of money as McDonald's. And I was like, oh, all right, well, I'll just do it as a hobby then, I guess.
Yeah, probably best.
Yeah.
Well, we have 2 more topics left. Why don't we pick one? I'll leave it up to you guys. You guys decide which one to go for. The ones I had were talking about G4 and the latest news about them and them being stupid. And the other thing I had on the list of things to talk about was what's going on with Marvel.
So I vote for G4 because that crazy Frost lady, if something has happened with her, I think it'll be hilarious.
There really wasn't too much about Marvel except for one of the characters in the new Moon Knight TV series died skiing the other day.
Yeah, I heard about that.
That was going to start the thing, but that's kind of a dark tone. Let's go with G4. Making fun of Frost is much more fun anyway.
It's more fun.
Yes.
I will say really quickly though, rest in peace, sir. Like I don't know you. I didn't watch any of your stuff because I haven't watched Marvel in years, but I'm always sad to hear that a young person has passed away.
Yeah, it was only
because that's still sad.
27, I think, or 28.
Yeah.
That's
wow, 27, the age.
Yeah.
Young guy.
Yeah. It's always sad to hear that a young person has died. But hey, you know what? The nice thing about being in Hollywood is people will remember you for maybe a little tiny bit longer. Not really.
Not really. But G4 suspended posting on their Reddit, the G4 TV Reddit. They suspended posting, so you can't post there anymore because they were just getting more shit after more shit after more shit after more shit. There was no productive anything going on there, and almost all of their videos have comments turned off.
Well, that's kind of, you know, I can't remember if it was you guys that we talked about with this, but yeah, I think it was you, Hammer, last week about it was just such a lack of professionalism. And honestly, you're right. It really was. Like, you know, I get having moments where you're reading chat, and yeah, there are times where I'd like to call somebody out for saying something stupid, but I understand that there's a time and a place and a way to go about it. And there's just some people who don't know how to do it. And that lady, I'm sorry, she's got to stick up her own ass because she's on a warp path. Like, I'm using my platform to push my politics.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Dear Girl from Twitch. You know, now that I have a little bit of power.
Yeah.
You know, now I'm gonna bring my advocacy with me on this show, even though the show has nothing to do with advocacy. Yeah. It's a gaming show, for Christ's sake.
And I'm going to point something out to her. You know, as opposed to the male gaze, as a female, I'd like to point out that I'm getting really tired of this female gaze thing that's been going on for a really long time. The part where it's her sexualizing me or other women because you're gatekeeping my options. What I do with my own body is my own choice. And if I get the opportunity or somebody else who's a female gets the opportunity to go onto a show, have fun, because the other girls actually looked like they were having fun. They looked like they were having a blast.
What girls?
Olivia Munn.
and Morgan.
Oh, those guys. Yeah, they were.
You know, they had fun. Were they being sexualized? Yes. But you know what? They had fun with it.
That's
Because
different,
here's the
though.
thing. It is a difference.
It's different because they sexualized themselves. They were the people who came up with these routines.
It's one of those things where I kind of understand where what's her name? Megan Thee Stallion and the other one, what's her face? The WAP lady. Yeah. You know, the point of their video was that they were empowering themselves. Like whether or not I agree with their video or want to watch it, or whether I'd kind of I just want them to put proper ratings on their music.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's all I give a shit about. You do what you do. You do you, boo. But the point is that they are in charge of their own bodies. They like what it is that they are doing. So when you have the female gaze gatekeeping that, I find that more offensive than the male gaze, because she should know better. And the reason she doesn't is because she can't do it herself. And that's honestly, I'm being an absolute prick saying it. That's the honest to God truth. That's why she can't. That's why she's pissed off, because she can't do it herself. And so she's going to gatekeep other women from doing it.
She could.
Yeah,
if she wanted to. If she wanted to sexualize herself, she could. She's deliberately making herself as unattractive as possible, and then complaining that people don't find me bangable, and so that's the only reason I'm getting.
Well, you've made yourself that way.
Yeah.
You know, if you pile on 10 layers of clothes on a closed set on a TV set, you don't need. It's not cold. You don't need all of those layers on. Short hair. Most guys don't find short hair attractive. I'm sorry, but they don't. Welcome to the real world.
But also, like, she's using it as a scapegoat. Like there's complaints about her, so she's turning it into you're only complaining because I'm not attractive. Like, no, there were legitimate complaints about you. You just don't want to accept them, so you're coming up with sexism in gaming and trying to blame your failings on that because you don't want to accept responsibility that you did something wrong.
Problem is nobody called her out on it. Everyone else cheered, go queen, you know, yes, queen. Nobody clear. I would have just stood up and immediately said, so I would immediately challenged her. I don't know exactly what I would say, but you know, so all criticism is off limits because you're a female. Is that what you're saying?
Well, there was a guy in the Twitter thread that basically said that. It's like, genuine question, when am I allowed to criticize her? Is it always going to be attributed to unbangability, or is there room for legitimate criticisms? When is that time? How do we do this?
Yeah.
And like they just got called, you know, misogynist and all that shit. No one actually answered the question.
They won't.
It's a gatekeeping. And yeah, it's a narcissism too, because she's made it all about her, but she hasn't made it about actual. Yeah, because she probably can't answer it. That's probably why.
Yeah. Well, the correct answer is no, you may never criticize me. That is her actual answer. She just knows she can't say that.
Let me address something in chat. Kieran says, I've got short hair. This is not against anybody. People can have short hair and still be attractive. I don't know if you want me to say this, but you can have short hair and still be bangable. But the point I was making is that if you ask 10 guys what they prefer, yeah, I think we know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I think the majority would prefer long.
Yeah.
It also depends on the girl. Like some women just really don't have the face for short hair. And that's just that's just how it is. Like celebrities that I know with short hair that managed to pull it off, Pink's okay. I wouldn't necessarily call her, well, she's not necessarily I wouldn't call her the pretty girl, but she's got a handsome face is what I would say. But she pulls off the short hair like she always has. She's also not an SJW. I like that about her.
It's as far as appearances, no, I am very much not attracted to Pink.
A lot of men weren't. you know, like she was a little bit too hard for some men, like just the face is because she does have a strong face. Like I thought she was pretty enough. You know, I like her face, but I wasn't looking to her for pretty advice. I was more looking at her for, you know, she's doing her career because she enjoys it. And that's basically all she's done the entire time she's done her thing.
Some women can pull off short hair. Look at like Meg Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Meg Ryan's cute no matter what.
I think I just like hair in general because, like, people have tried to convince me that some men look better bald, and I just disagree. Men should have hair on their heads. Being bald is a bad thing that sometimes nature just forces upon you. So I don't know why people would voluntarily become bald. And it's the same with I think men should have beards. I think men look better with beards. And
but
women look
you're
better
you're a man though.
But women look better with long hair. Men should have hair on their heads, and you know,
but it's got to be it's got to be relative, because if you're a person who's balding, what looks better, a balding head or a bald head?
I would say neither look good, but
right.
I think there's a certain amount of I would respect the person who left it alone and didn't shave it off, because you can see the receding hairline in the scalp stubble. Like, you're not fooling anyone. It kind of feels like you're trying to, oh no, I do this by choice. No, you don't. You do it because you're going bald and you don't want to admit it.
Yeah, but like, if you're taking care of yourself, there shouldn't be scalp stubble.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, just the same way people get 5 o'clock shadows, by the afternoon, there's some growth on their scalp.
Sure.
And so, like, you can see the receding hairline. Like, you're not really fooling people into thinking, oh no, it's not by choice. It's because you're going bald.
So Terry Crews would look better with hair.
Yes.
The Rock would look better with hair. Bezos.
Yes.
All these hot and hunky. Well, maybe not Bezos, but all these hunky men that women just love to death.
Look, I think they pull off being bald better than most because they've got decent bodies, but they would look better with hair.
I've seen The Rock with hair too, though. Like, he does grow it out every once in a while just to do a movie or something. And he looks good with both, actually. He just has it's a head shape thing too. Like, it's kind of a mystery once you take your hair off what your head's gonna look like, you know. And not everybody has a nicely shaped head. That's just, I don't think I do. I wouldn't. I really wouldn't want to test it, but I suspect I have. Test it. You know, but yeah, like, not everyone just has a nice shaped head.
Yeah, Natalie Portman did not look good with a shaved head. If you ever saw the movie,
women should not have a shaved head. That's just
the girl in what was the name of I don't remember the name of the actress that was in The Fifth Element. She was one of the aliens. She had on this clear green skirt and like a fluffy jacket on. She had a bald head. That's how she lives her life. If you look at pictures of her online, they're all like that. She's never had long hair. It's like, how can you? Anyway, we're 10 minutes over. You guys want to pack it up and get out of here?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, good. Well, we should probably do that. I don't want the show to run too long tonight, so we'll get out of here. I want to thank chat as always for chatting with us tonight. I don't think I got back to very many things, but Kiefer, you're beautiful. Don't worry about it. If you're looking for more of the zoo, Discord service is linked in the description down below, and we are live every evening with most shows starting at 11:30 p.m. Eastern, 7 days a week. Quiz on Monday, Skep's on Tuesday. We are, of course, at 9 on Wednesday. Johnny's tomorrow night. Sanguine's Friday. Harry is on Saturday, and Delahazed hosting Sunday nights. We will be back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. as usual. I hope you enjoyed the show. And we'll see you again next week. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Everyone.